Notice your breathing. And notice if anything changes in terms of your contact with the floor. When you breathe in and when you breathe out. And can you, with your attention, how much of yourself can you pay attention to as you pay attention to your breath and how your breathing might change the contact of yourself with the floor? So can you include in your attention how your head is resting on the floor and where the point of contact is? Can you include the width of your shoulders and the length of your right arm? Could you include your left leg, the back of your head, your right arm, your shoulders, your cat, your breathing, the changes that your body might be making relative to the floor as you breathe, the changes that your body may be making as your cat settles on your stomach. Can you include your left leg? What about your pelvis? What about the gap behind the back at the back of the waist? Does that change relative to the floor when you breathe? The area of your ribs, your breath, your two legs, your two arms, the weight of the pelvis, the movement of your breath, the weight of your head. Can you include all of these things in the basket of your attention? Do you include them all at once, or do you hop from one to the other? How much of yourself can you include in your attention as you pay attention to your breathing and how that might be changing your shape and your contact with the floor? And then could you roll your head from side to side just to check in with where's the comfortable range on one side and the other? And then could you stand up both your feet, balance both your knees over your feet in a place that's comfortable and free, feet comfortably apart. And again, check in with the breathing. Are there different places now changing relative to the floor now that you've bent your legs? And Then can you bring your arms outstretched to either side of you so that you make the letter T? And can you have your palms turned towards the ceiling? And then can you bend up your elbows so that your forearms are vertical and the palms of your hands look in the direction of your feet? And this is a lesson that many of you may have done in the past. I wanted to revisit it. It's just such a great lesson. So can you take both the palms of your hands down towards the floor and see how far down do they go, and then bring them back up. And then I'm going to impose a constraint. Some of you have the arms bent at about a 45-degree angle. Can you have the elbows bent so that they're at a 90-degree angle? And keeping that 90-degree angle, lower the palms down towards the floor. The palms do not need to touch the floor, but they stay in a 90-degree angle. So some of you, as you brought your hands down to the floor, you open the elbows. So see if you can keep, let's stay with this movement for a few moments. See if you can keep the angle in your elbows consistent as you bring the palms towards the floor. So you're bringing a right angle down towards the floor. And now you can check, are your elbows really out straight to the sides, or are they more angled down towards your pelvis? See if you can have your elbows straight out to the sides. You can turn your head, check. So you've got a right angle there, and you've got a right angle down towards the floor. So that may inhibit how far down your palms go towards the floor. That's fine. We're just seeing how far easily they go when the arms are straight out from the shoulder girdle. And one palm may go a lot closer to the floor than the other. Maybe. So have the other arm go not quite as far. So if one arm does not go as far as the other, have the arm that goes further go not as far. So your bias is towards the arm that doesn't go as easily towards the floor. There. So there, yes, so you have some sense of equality in your two sides. And now could you do the opposite movement to bring the hands to balance so the fingers are pointing up at the ceiling? Fingers are pointing up at the ceiling and the forearms are vertical. And check, are the arms straight out from the shoulders? Are the forearms at a right angle? And then can you bring the backs of your hands towards the floor behind you? And you don't have to do much, just how much does gravity allow that to happen? And then bring them back to the vertical. And go slowly and listen to the two sides. You go smoothly. Can you come back slower than you lower them towards the floor? So can you bring the hands back together at the same time, but even slower than you were lowering them towards the floor? And then could you go just once towards the floor with the palms going towards the floor, and then once towards the floor with the backs of the hands going towards the floor? And then lengthen down your legs and your arms wherever you like and take a rest. And feel if anything has shifted or changed in how you contact the floor. Bend up your legs again, stand your feet. Bring your arms outstretched to either side, so they're straight out to the side like the letter T. And then bend up the forearms so that they're at a right angle and vertical. As though your hands or your fingertips were candles. If your fingertips were candles, then the wax could maybe have a chance of not dripping. Good. Okay. Actually, this lesson is called Chanukya, the candle holder. One of the top 10 Feldenkrais lessons. So now, could you lower your palms towards the floor as you did a moment ago? But as you do so, could you lift your head to look in between your knees? Lift your head away from the floor. And how does that affect these levers of your hands going towards the floor? Does it make it easier for them to come closer to the floor if you lift your head and look in between your knees? So that it's quite possible, it is quite possible that the hands could even touch the floor without any sense of coercion or forcing. It's just very light because you're raising the entire upper spine and the collarbones are rolling forward and the abdominals are contracting powerfully. And the hands might be able to set themselves down on the floor just as light as a feather. And that's as heavy as you want it, as light as a feather. This is definitely a lesson not to force because you can mess up your shoulders. Pause the next time your head is down and your candles are burning. And then could you do the same movement, but instead of lifting the head, could you lift your pelvis? Could you lift your pelvis as you lower your palms towards the floor? So you would press your feet into the floor and roll up the spine. Good. And see, how does this change the movement in the shoulder girdle? So it's not the head lifting, it's the pelvis lifting. And as the pelvis settles down, then the hands come back and the candles burn brightly. And now, could you once lift the head as you lower the palms, and then the next time you lower the palms, lift the pelvis? Feel the difference. How does it invite your shoulders to operate, to respond? You can try that again. Lift the head, lower the palms, and then lift the pelvis and lower the palms. Make sure to pause in between and take a breath before you start the next movement. And now, since I know you want to do it, lift your head and lift your pelvis together. Lift your head and lift your pelvis together. Good. Okay. Lengthen everything down and take a rest. Stand up your feet again. Bring your hands into the candle holder, candelabra position. You can light all your candles. Make sure your elbows are out to the sides. And now could you lower your right palm towards the floor and your just that. Just lower your right palm towards the floor and come back. Do that a few times. Just lower your right palm towards the floor and come back. And if you were to turn your head to the right or to the left, which way might you choose as you lower the hand towards the floor? Would you look towards it or would you look away from it? You can try, of course, try both and see which one works best for you. And what do you do with that shoulder? What happens with that shoulder? We're just working with the right arm for now. What if you were to allow your knees to tilt to the left as you lowered your right palm down towards the floor? Which way might your head like to turn? What if you were to let your left hand go towards the floor with the back of the hand? So the right hand, the palm is going downwards. The left hand, the palm is going, the back of the hand is going towards the floor. So so let's start over. So start with your candles burning and the palms facing the feet, more or less, facing that direction. And now if you lowered your right palm towards the floor as you lowered the back of your left hand towards the floor, lower the right palm towards the floor, downwards, and the left palm is going to come towards your head. The left palm is going to come towards the floor, towards the head. So the fingers, yes, there you go. And then come back. So just that, the right hand like a lever pressing down, and the left hand going the opposite direction. And experiment with turning your head towards the palm that's going towards the feet, fingertips looking towards the feet, or turning the head, rolling the head to look towards the hand that's coming towards it, the hand that's coming closest to the face. And let's do an auxiliary movement. Bring your hands together, clasp your hands together, and extend them up towards the ceiling, and as though someone were trying to pick you off the floor by grabbing hold of your wrists. And let your shoulders pull away from the floor. And then take that structure of your arms to the right and to the left, and let yourself roll. Not so that you turn onto the side, just take the hands a little to the right, take the arms a little to the right, a little to the left. You have a nice rounded shoulder girdle. Good. Notice if your knees want to participate. And bring your arms down and bring your legs down and take a rest. Stand up your feet again. Bring your arms into the candle holder situation. And now lower your left palm down towards the floor. And come back. And do that a few times. And now what if you were to allow your knees to tilt to the right and to bring the left shoulder away from the floor as you lower the palm down? Which way would your head like to turn? It could look away from the shoulder, it could look towards the shoulder. But the shoulder comes away from the floor. Check if your arms are opening. Are you changing the angle in your forearm as you lower the palm towards the floor? And you really stay true to that right angle that's in the crook of the elbow, stays at a right angle. There we go. There we go. Like the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. That famous dance that he did in the cornfield. That'll be your homework. What does the right arm want to do? What would the right arm, if you allowed it to do something, as you take the left palm towards the floor and the knees are tilting to the right, what might your right palm like to do? And which direction might your head like to turn? And can you feel what's happening all the way through from the left shoulder to the right, across the back, in the ribs, in the spine? And then what if you were, the next time you take that shape, with the right hand going towards the floor, up towards your face, and the left palm going down towards the floor, towards the feet, take your knees in the opposite direction. What if you took your knees in the opposite direction? What would that change? And could you come back slower than you lower the knees and lower the arms? So come back, and the knees and the fingertips arrive looking at the ceiling at the same moment. So gravity can help you on the way down, but you're working against it on the way up. And the timing is everything. Timing is everything. And then what if you were to reverse what you're doing with your arms, but keep the knees going the same direction? Reverse what you're doing with the arms. And again, you come back slower than you went over there. What does your head want to do? Which direction could it turn? And how is it different through the system, through your whole system, if you turn the head one way or turn the head the other? What does it change? So now the head and the hands and the knees all come back to look at the ceiling at the same moment. Where does this movement originate? Okay, this is excellent. Take a rest. Roll your head from side to side. And then stand up both your feet. Stand up both your feet. And just simply tilt your knees one direction and bring them back, and then the other direction. Just leisurely, slowly. Doesn't have to be far, comfortably. And follow this movement. So the tilting knees are dragging one side of your pelvis away from the floor. And so then what happens is, if you follow that movement from the tilting knees through your pelvis into your spine and into your chest, through the rib cage, into the shoulder girdle. One side of your shoulder comes away from the floor, perhaps, as you tilt the knees one direction. The other shoulder blade gets more imprinted into the floor. And what does the head do? How are you breathing? Are you coming back slower than when you go over? You can really fill in any of the gaps in your awareness of yourself. And then pause the next time your feet are standing. And bring your hands out into your candle holders, with the elbows out, straight out, and the elbows bent at right angles, and the fingertips pointing towards the ceiling. And then could you alternate bringing one palm down towards the floor, the back of the hand towards the floor, so the hands go in opposite direction, lowering slowly. And listen to, does this movement invite any type of response in your pelvis or in your legs? Bring the arms down for a moment and pause. And then could you interlace your fingers and bring your hands behind your head? And with the help of your hands, bringing your elbows close to your head, could you lift your head to look in between your knees. Lift your head to look in between your knees. Lift your head, lift your shoulders from the floor. And then as you set the head down, could you push the feet into the floor and raise the pelvis? And could you do it in such a way that as you roll, you feel this rolling up the vertebrae of the spine, rolling up and down, so you can lower the pelvis as you lift the head, and then you can lift the pelvis as you lower the head. And then the next time your head is lifted, could you stay there and lift your pelvis? And imagine that you're like in a hammock or a sling. And then keeping the distance more or less constant between your pubic bone and your head, could you roll up and down your spine as though you were a runner on a rocker, on a rocking chair? So you stay engaged in the front of yourself as you're rocking towards and away from the pelvis. Which vertebrae are you imprinting the most into the floor, and which ones could maybe imprint above and below a little better? And let it all go and take a rest. Stand your feet, interlace your fingers, and bring your palms on your belly. Interlace your fingers, bring your palms on your belly. And keeping the heels of your hands on your belly, could you lift your elbows away from the floor? And feel what happens in your shoulders when you do that. So the heels of the hands stay on the belly, and the shoulders are going to come forward as you lift the elbows. And then the next time you lift the elbows, could you lift could you lift your head to look in between your knees? Lift your elbows and sort of press down with the heels of your hands into your belly or your ribs or wherever your arms are comfortably placed on your body. And feel what you're doing with your chest. Feel what you're doing across the shoulders. Feel the width across the back between the shoulder blades. Good, and then let's take a rest. Sense your breathing and your contact with the floor. And stand up your feet again. Comfortable distance apart. Bring your arms out to the sides and your fingertips pointing at the ceiling at the right angles. And now could you again lift your head as you bring the palms of your hands down towards the floor, as though you're pressing a lever. And come back. And do that a few times. How does that feel now? Defer to the hand that doesn't go as far, rather than trying to force it to be like the other side. Now, the next time your hands are wherever they are, they may be on the floor, they may not, doesn't matter. Could you leave them there? Could you leave them wherever they are and set your head down without moving the hands? And then bring the hands up and lift the head. And now set the head down and bring the palms down towards the floor. Set the head down, bring the palms down towards the floor. And bring the palms vertical, or bring the arms vertical as you lift the head. And it happens together rather than 1, 2. So the head goes down as the palms go down. Yes, good. And then the palms come up as the head goes up. Together, good. Take a rest. Stand up your feet again. Bring your arms out to the sides and bend your forearms so that they're vertical. Bring the backs of your hands towards the floor as you lift your pelvis away from the floor. As you lift your pelvis away from the floor and roll up towards the shoulders, bring the backs of the hands towards the floor. And then as you set the pelvis down, bring the palms back. So it's connected. The movement of the arms and the hands are connected to the movement of the pelvis. Listen to if you set your pelvis down equally on the right side or on the left, or is one side early? Remember, defer to the hand that doesn't go as far. And now the next time you lift your pelvis, could you also lift your head? So the backs of the hands are going down towards the floor. You're lifting the pelvis and you're lifting the head. And then everything comes down together. Let's take a rest. Again, interlace your fingers, bring your hands behind your head and stand both your feet. And lift your pelvis and lift your head and round your spine, and then rock on this runner of your spine. pelvis lifts, the head lowers, but the head never comes back down to the floor, really. Good. Take a rest. Roll your head from side to side. Check in with your neck. And stand your feet again, a comfortable distance apart. And bring your arms out at right angles and bend your elbows. Candles pointed up towards the ceiling. And again, like you're pressing lightly down on levers, can you bring the palms towards the floor and lift your head and follow? So the head follows the shoulder girdle, and the head lifting can help the hands lowering towards the floor. And then leave the hands where they are and set the head down. And now bring the arms back. And again, head lifts and the palms lower all together. And then wherever the palms are, if they're on the floor, leave them there and set the head down. Feel what you're doing with your chest. Feel what you're needing to do with your shoulders to keep your hands hovering over the floor and not come away. Bring the hands back, reset, reset. And again, lift the head, lower the palms. Leave the hands and shoulders where they are and set the head down. So you'll be setting the head back down more towards the top of the head. Yeah, so it'll feel quite hunched. It'll feel quite hunched. So start with the palms facing your feet and the forearms vertical. And then lift your head. Lift your head. Look between your knees. And now, as you set the head down, lower the palms towards the floor and lift the pelvis. And then come back to that place. As you lower the pelvis, lift the head and bring the hands back. Feel how you roll through the back. Feel how what part of your spine you're rolling through. Zoom has suddenly gone crazy and everyone is moving like little cartoon characters.
And your voice is waking up too.
Do I sound like Minnie Mouse on whatever that stuff is that the dentists use?
Like talking under the water.
Nitric oxide. What's that?
You're talking under the water.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're listening. I think they're listening now. They're listening now. Okay, let's take a rest. Everybody, take off your clothes. No, just kidding. Feel the disposition of your back against the floor. If you pay attention to your breathing, how does it change? How does your contact change with the floor? Stand your feet again. Bring your hands outstretched to either side. Your arms outstretched to either side and the elbows bent at right angles. And the fingers pointed up towards the ceiling. And now could you lower the palms towards the floor as you lift the pelvis? Lower the palms towards the floor as you lift the pelvis. And then as you lower the pelvis and bring the hands back to vertical, lift the head. And that's the pattern. Lower the palms and lift the pelvis. Press down the levers with feather-light touch. As you lower the pelvis, lift the head. Pause. Keep your candles burning brightly. Could you bring the backs of your hands towards the floor as you lift your pelvis? Bring the backs of your hands towards the floor as you lift the pelvis. And then as you lower the pelvis, the hands come back and the candles are burning. And then the next time you're in that place where the pelvis is lifted and the backs of the hands, they may be on the floor, they may not. Can you leave them wherever they are and lower the pelvis? So you have to make that accommodation somewhere in the back, somehow in the chest. And then try that again. Bring the forearms vertical, lower the backs of the hands towards the floor behind you. Leave the hands there and lower the pelvis. And then let's let everything go down and take a rest. Bend your knees up again. Bring your candle holders into position. Lift the head as you lower the palms down. And then keeping the head off the floor, keeping the palms down, lift the pelvis. And roll as though you lower the pelvis like you're on that runner again. Your spine is a runner. And the palms stay down. And you lift the pelvis and you lift the head and you lift the pelvis, you lift the head, but the head never really goes down back towards the floor. You keep the chin tucked and you keep looking towards your knees. Notice if your palms want to participate, or can you keep them where they are? You find a way to separate the movement of your back, your spine, from the movement in your shoulder girdle. There we go. A little bit of differentiation goes a long way. Take a rest. Okay, now we're going to get extra fancy. Can you bend up your knees, stand your feet, bring your arms outstretched to either side, and bend up your forearms so they're vertical and your candles are burning. And now can you revisit lowering one palm towards the floor? I'm going to be a dictator here. Lower your left palm of the hand towards the floor as the back of the right hand comes towards the floor. And tilt your knees to the right as you do so. So go back to the starting position. And can you have that happen all together as one movement, and turn your face to look in the direction of your right hand as you go into. Now check, are you losing the angle in your elbow as you lower one hand down, as you lower one hand up? Be true, be precise in the angles of the bones. And everything comes back twice as slow as it goes over. Good, good. Now we're going to change just one thing. Can you take your eyes to the left as the head turns to the right? Can you take the eyes to the left as the head rolls to the right? Everything else is the same. If you can make it smooth, even the eyeballs, as smooth as the knees coming back. Now let's change one thing again. Could you let your head roll to the left? And come back twice as slow. We change just one thing, and you track how that one change changes other places, changes the feeling, changes the picture that you have in your mind of what you're doing. And now continuing with that pattern of turning the head away from the knees, could you take your eyes opposite the direction of your face? So as you're rolling your face towards the left, take your eyes towards the right as though you wanted to see your right hand. And the knees are tilting and the arms are lowering and the arms are keeping their right angles. Keeping their right angles. Eyes opposite, yes. Good, take a rest. Okay, let's confound your system on the other side. Bend up your knees, stand your feet, bring your arms out at right angles, bend the elbows at right angles. And now bring the right palm down towards the floor as the left back of the hand goes towards the floor behind you, and take your knees to the left. And follow the right hand with your eyes and with your face. And bring everything back twice as slow as you went over there. And now could you take your eyes opposite? So the face turning to the right, the knees lowering to the left, the eyes seeing if they can catch a glimpse of your left thumb. And you're breathing. And you could break into laughter at any moment. You could smile.
As I spin in a pinwheel.
What's that?
I feel like I'm spinning in a pinwheel.
Spinning in a pinwheel. Lovely image. What color?
All time.
Now, could you roll your head opposite? Just change that one thing. Turn the head opposite. The eyes can go in the direction of the face. Everything congruent, in agreement. Feel what changes. The pressure across the back, across the hips, across the shoulders. And now change one thing. Change your eyes. And everything comes back together. So everything is going away from the center, away from symmetry. And then everything comes back very slowly. So you can really pay attention. And now could you go to the right and to the left? Could you alternate sides? One hand going up, the other hand going down, the knees going one way, and then the next time you reverse that. And remember, you're coming back slower than when you went over there. Now feel the pattern. Feel the pattern. It becomes more familiar each time. It becomes easier, more pleasing to do each time. And now change just one thing. Change, freeze wherever you are, and just reverse the knees. Just reverse the knees, and there's your starting place, and start to go from there. Start to go from there. The pattern of lowering one hand one way, the other hand the other way, tilting your knees. Paying attention to the timing as you come back, so you're not flopping. You don't want to flop like a fish out of water. Now, wherever you are, freeze if you're in an asymmetrical position. So on one side or the other. Now change just one thing. Change the arms. Whichever arm is up, then it goes down. And now there's your starting position. And start with your movement. Now let's imagine that you're in a jar of honey doing this movement. You can change the quality and the timing and the breathing. You can breathe in this vat of honey. It's amazing. Now, without stopping your flowing, sticky movement, can you change just one thing, and that would be the direction of your eyes? In this pattern of movement, can you change the direction of your eyes to do something different as you continue to move? And notice what that changes. This is the thing, not that you can do the movement. The movement is ridiculous. It's you're noticing what happens, what changes. It's the awareness that is the magical ingredient here. And now could you freeze? If you're on one side or the other, freeze. And now change just one thing. Slowly turn your head in the opposite direction. And there's your new starting position. What did that change? And go from there. That's your new starting position. And remember, you're in the honey, so everything's moving together. One arm doesn't go further than the other. There's no competition in a jar of honey. And now you get to choose whichever part you change. It could be the hands, the arms, it could be the angle of the legs, it could be the turning of the head, it could be the eyes. So you play this game that you change one thing and then you start the pattern again. And then after that starts to feel familiar, you change something else. And that's your new starting place. And when you change something else, notice, do you change it just to change it? Or can you notice what happens as you change it? So what changes as you make the decision to do something different? What difference does it make? So that every moment is a moment where you can practice being aware. And let's take a rest. Sense your contact with the floor. Sense your movement of your breath and how that might change the contact you have with the floor. Is that different than it was at the beginning of the lesson? Can you sense your legs and your pelvis, your right arm and your left arm, and the contact of your torso, your shoulders and your head, all in one basket of attention? Can you be aware of all those places? And then if you rolled your head, is anything new? And then if you were to roll yourself to your side and bring yourself up to standing, bring yourself up onto your feet. What might be new or different about your standing? You look from right to left, move about. What might feel different in your chest or your shoulders? How your legs take your weight. And we'll call it good.